This is the case of Ethan Crumbley, the Oxford High School shooter. Ethan was a 15-year-old sophomore who showed multiple warning signs leading up to the school shooting. Some of these warning signs include noticeable behavioral changes, writing on school assignments saying that he feels terrible and how his family was a mistake, and also drawing graphic images on some of his school assignments. Also leading up to the shooting, he told his friend and his parents that he was struggling with his mental health and that he needed help. After the event that we're going to be talking about today, a forensic psychologist spoke in court about how mass shooters typically have a slow buildup to violence, which are caused by crisis points. She identified 2 crisis points in Ethan before the school shooting, with the first one being in March of 2021 when he went to his parents to tell them about his mental health issues. She said that he was talking to them about, quote, potential hallucinations, delusions, needing mental health care, even thinking about calling 911 on himself in order to get mental health care. When he told his parents about this, his father told him to suck it up and his mother was laughing at him. The second crisis point that she identified was when he had behavioral changes around the time that, quote, his best friend was sent away. I believe his dog died. He was acting differently during this period as well. She also mentioned that during this time he wrote in a journal about his crisis as well, and his behavioral changes included increased agitation, isolation, not turning in school assignments, and missing school. And I'm not saying that this is an excuse. For me, it's simply getting to the point on how and why he did this horrible attack. 4 days before the shooting, Ethan went with his father James to go buy a 9mm hand pew-pew on Black Friday as an early Christmas present for Ethan. Later that night, Ethan posted a picture of it on his IG saying, quote, just got my new beauty today with heart eye emojis, Sig Sauer 9mm, ask any questions, I will answer. The next day, him and his mom Jennifer went to the shooting range, and his mom wrote on social media saying, quote, Mom and Sunday testing out his new Christmas present. The day before the shooting, one of Ethan's teachers saw him looking up ammunition on his phone during class, so she let school officials know. Ethan was pulled out of class to talk to the counselor while the school attempted to call his parents and even sent an email to his mom, but there weren't any answers on either the phone calls or the email. While Ethan was talking to the counselor, he told them that shooting sports was his hobby and that's why he was looking up the ammunition, and because there were no answers back on the phone calls or the email, Ethan was sent back to class and everything seemed normal for the rest of the school day. At some point, Ethan's mom did text him that day about the school calling, saying, quote, LOL, I'm not mad at you. You have to learn not to get caught. Later that night, Ethan posted 2 videos talking about shooting and killing students, and he also tweeted, quote, now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. On the day of the shooting on November 30th, 2021, one of Ethan's teachers noticed some disturbing images that he drew on one of his assignments. If you would like to pause it, this is the assignment that worried the teacher. The teacher took a picture of it on her phone and told administration, and Ethan's parents were immediately called and Ethan was pulled out of class by the counselor. While Ethan was waiting for his parents to arrive, he told the counselor that those drawings were for a video game design that he was working on because that's what he wanted to do when he grew up. For the rest of the hour and a half that they were waiting for Ethan's parents to get there, the counselor said that Ethan was calm and working on homework. James and Jennifer arrived at the school around 10 a.m. and when they got there, Ethan had already scratched out most of the things on that assignment, but the counselor did tell them that they had to get Ethan into counseling in the next 48 hours or they would have to call Children's Protective Services. They were asked to take Ethan back home, but both of them did have to go back to work, so instead of sending him home to be by himself, the school decided that it was okay for Ethan to stay since he didn't have any previous documented disciplinary infractions. I would also like to point out that no one looked inside of Ethan's backpack, but he was sent back to class. Just before 12:50, school surveillance caught Ethan going inside the bathroom with his backpack, and just a minute later he came out of the bathroom without his backpack but with the firearm in his hand. He began walking down the hallway and shooting at students that were in the hallway, as well as shooting into a couple different classroom doors, and he tried to get into a couple classrooms, but he didn't succeed. At 12:51, the first of over 100 911 calls came in, and within 5 minutes of that first 911 call, police had Ethan detained without any resistance. That day, Ethan brought 50 rounds to school with him and shot about 30 of them. In total, 10 students and 1 teacher were shot, and 4 of those students lost their lives. News of the school shooting broke out shortly after, and at 1:22 p.m., Ethan's mom texted him saying, quote, Ethan, don't do it. And then at 1:37, James called 911 saying that one of the firearms in their house was missing and that he believes that his son was the school shooter. The next day, Ethan was charged with 1 count of terrorism causing death, 4 counts of first-degree murder, 7 counts of assault with the intent to kill, and 12 counts of possession of a firearm in the commission of a felony. It was determined that Ethan would be charged as an adult, and at this point, prosecution already had quite a bit of digital evidence against Ethan. 2 days later, James and Jennifer were charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, and that's because prosecution believes that the parents allowed easy access to a firearm despite multiple warning signs leading to gross negligence. In order to convict them of this, it'll have to be proved that they knew the dangers that their son posed by having access to a firearm and that their negligence caused the death of those students. All three of them pled not guilty, and I'm going to leave James and Jennifer's case at that due to time, but I could always do another video getting more in depth on their case. After the shooting, there were multiple lawsuits against the school, school district, superintendent, principal, dean of students, 2 guidance counselors, and 2 teachers, but on March 7th of this year, a judge ruled that the Oxford schools and its employees are immune from liability. Back to the timeline, in January of 2022, Ethan's lawyer announced that they were going to be going after the insanity plea. Afterwards, he did receive a mental evaluation, but I haven't been able to see any of the results on it, so I don't think that the results were released to the public. However, if any of you know where I could find those records, please let me know. His trial was originally set to begin in September of 2022, but it was pushed back to January of 2023. However, on October 24th of 2022, Ethan pled guilty to all charges. There were no plea deals that were agreed upon, but since Ethan is a minor, he can't automatically be sentenced to life in prison. This is because in Michigan, minors are entitled to a hearing where their lawyer can argue for shorter sentences or an opportunity for parole by presenting mitigating factors like home life, age, and mental health. This hearing was originally set in February of this year, but it has since been postponed indefinitely. As for the parents, they're still in jail, and on March 7th, they were in front of an appeals court to see if they should stand trial for the involuntary manslaughter charges. The final decision wasn't made that day, and we are still waiting on the results of that as well. Now we're going to talk a little bit about each of the victims that lost their lives. This is 14-year-old Hannah St. Juliana. Hannah was described as having a sweet, kind, and amazing soul. She played on both her school's volleyball team and her basketball team, and she was so loved by her friends, her team, and her family. Tate Meir was 16 and was described as a positive and selfless mentor and leader. Tate was both a linebacker and a tight end for his school's football team, and his family started 42 Strong Foundation, which offers peer-to-peer mentorship. Madison Baldwin was 17, and she loved drawing, reading, and writing. She was a part of the National Honor Society and already had multiple college acceptances, including some of them offering her a full scholarship. Justin Schilling was 17, and he was described as being kind to everybody, and he was never one to give up. He was the co-captain of his school's bowling team and was a devoted friend.